Hey now, if you've seen my pork loin deli ham video, you know it's possible to make really delicious sandwich meat at home. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be taking a beef eye of round roast. I'm going to be putting it in a flavorful cure and transforming it into this delicious beef that you can use on sandwiches. You can send it cold to school for the kids. You can do something super fun and cool. Get it on a sandwich with some nice spicy mustard, some horseradish. You could fry it up, make this nice grilled sandwich, kind of like a little bit of a take on a Reuben. Speaking of, this is sort of a little take on corned beef in that it's cured, it's pink, but of course the seasonings are all completely different, but I'm going with the flavors I like. So let's see how it's done. So I'm going to be doing this today here using a whole eye of round roast that I picked up on sale. This is right around, well, just under 3 kilograms at the moment, but it's going to be a little bit less than that when I'm done. So I'm just going to take it out of this cryovac package here, pat off all that delightful meat juice with some paper towel. There we are. And clean up. Once it's patted dry, the first step here is just to remove some of this tissue. There's, if you take a look here, we've got some silver skin that I'm going to just pull off here. And there's also some of this, like almost a little bit more kind of gelatinous connective tissue. We don't want that. I'm using an eye of round roast here because it is a nice lean cut. It breaks my heart, but my children are not big fans of fat. So I'm actually going to trim off most of the fat here. That is certainly optional if you're doing this. If it was just for me, I'd be leaving the fat on and I would probably like it a lot more, but know your audience, right? So I'm just gonna get this all trimmed up and ready to go. Also, if you have any, like I've got this, there's like a little flap here from the butcher. I don't want that. I'm just gonna trim that off here too. Here we are, all trimmed up, got all that silver skin off. Well, most of it, there's the tiniest little bit here, but that's not going to affect the finished product. Other than that, great. Here's all the trimmings. Now let's get a weight. I'm going to go ahead and weigh it on this. I like this digital scale here. It's accurate to 0.1 of a gram, which is really handy, especially when it comes to the cure. So now that I have my post-trim weight, I'm able to get my equilibrium cure. And what I mean by that is that I'm doing everything by weight and weight percentage, and this is the exact amount of seasonings and cure and salt that I want in my finished product, as opposed to having to freshen it. So I'm going with 0.25% of cure number 1, that's like prog powder number 1, or it's any sort of cure that uses the sodium nitrite, which is the faster releasing, faster acting cure. I'm going with 0.25%, so for those of you who are new to the equilibrium cure and doing everything by weight, that winds up, you just take the weight, multiply it by 0.25%. In this case, that gives me 6.2 grams, so you need a good scale. I've got that. I have 2.3% of kosher salt. I have 1.5% of garlic powder, 0.25% of dried thyme, just because it's really light, and then 1% of peppercorns that I just threw in my spice mill and ground up. So let's get it on the meat. I'm going to mix it all up here with a fork. That's looking good enough. Let us apply. So I'm just going to sprinkle it over here. I've got this in a nice deep meat lug here, and that's just so I don't wind up losing any of this cure. You could add this directly to the bag with the meat, but I find that doing this kind of gives me a nice original coating all the way around the meat. And I'm going to, once I have this in the bag here in just a second, I'm going to scrape all of this out and get it in there with it. So there, nice initial coating. Let's get my vacuum bag. And here we are. My lovely assistant is holding that for me. And now, like I said, I'm just going to quickly scrape everything into the corner and dump it into the bag. You want to get all of that in there because, again, with this equilibrium cure, everything that's in here is something that we want in the finished product. So I've jostled everything around inside this vacuum bag as much as possible, and now it is time to actually seal it. I'm just using my food saver unit here. You could use just Ziploc bags or something like that, but I find that, first of all, this is a larger piece of meat than most bags will accommodate, and Also, in the past, I had a couple of instances where there was like slight leaking out of them. I prefer the vacuum bags, and I'm going to double seal it. It's a little bit fun on these vertical units, but there we go. All right, I'm going to write the product name on here and the date and the weight and get it into the refrigerator. There we are, ready to hit the fridge. I'm going to give this 3 weeks in there, which is a little bit longer than this needs to actually cure, but it's going to give extra time just for all of these beautiful seasonings here just to soak into the meat as much as possible and result in just a really nice, flavorful finished product. Here we are after just over 3 weeks. Again, more time than this required to cure, but lots of time for those flavors to just get into that beef and wind up with a much nicer, flavorful product here. I'm just going to pour it out into this meat lug that I've got, and it is time to rinse it off. Here we are, rinsed off and patted dry. Now you could actually chill this down, slice it, and eat it just like this. It is safe to eat. However, the texture would be a little bit off. It would be a little soft, kind of chewy, very much still like raw beef. That's not what we want, so it's time to cook it. So there are different ways you could finish this off. You could roast it, you could throw it in the smoker. I'm going to use the precision cooker here, and the whole idea with that is I'm trying to retain as much moisture as possible, and cooking this sous vide will certainly do that for me. So as you can see, I've got a dual seal on here that really helps prevent anything from being able to pop open. It's just an extra security feature. You could get away with using zipper lock bags for this, providing they don't pop open, and just having the rim of them up above the water line. However, if with a piece of meat like this, you'd have to cut it in half or get some of the much more expensive, very large zipper lock bags. As far as vacuum sealers go, I really like my Food Saver. This is a 3800 series model, which is a little bit older, but it's lasted me quite a long time. I really like these vertical style units as opposed to the horizontal ones. I find that they tend to work a little bit better. I'm going to be cooking this using my first generation Innova precision cooker, which has lasted me quite a few years. Super happy with that. Lots of good precision cooker options out there, and less expensive ones as well if you're looking to sort of get into the game and want to make sure you like it. Now I've got this at 140 Fahrenheit, which is warmer than some people might cook it. You could go 135, 130 even, but with the preferences of my kids, I'm going to go a little bit closer towards medium with this. But again, cooking with the sous vide here, I'm going to be retaining a lot of moisture, and it still should be a really nice finished product. I've got the water topped up as high as I'm comfortable going right now. I'm going to tent it with some foil. We're in for a long cook. In 24 hours, which is plenty of time for the enzymes in this meat to work their magic, get it super nice and tender. So I'm going to pull it out of the water bath here and chill it down. We definitely have some moisture loss here. It would have been less if I had gone with a lower temperature, but again, we were going for a particular doneness with this meat. It's also less moisture loss than if we had gone ahead and roasted it or something like that outside of a water bath. Well, here we are. So I've got this all chilled down. It's nice and dried off. Now the only thing that I'm not liking about this so far is just the exterior, because it still has that sort of like reddish color because this is cured. Well, what can we do about that? Maybe a ripping hot fire. I think there are a lot of different ways that you could finish this off. You could torch it, you could get it on the barbecue, you could maybe even smoke it a little bit or something if you like. However, I'm going to do this time. See how it goes. Got a bunch of birch wood on here. It's gotten really nice and hot. Ooh. As I try to throw this off into the abyss. And I'm not looking, obviously, to cook this a whole lot more or anything like that, but we do want to get it a little bit crisped up. Well, there we go. Nice little Maillard stuff going on the outside. Let's get this off. Well, here we are. All chilled down, ready to slice. Let's see what it looks like on the inside. All right, I'm going right into the middle of this. I want to see what it looks like. Ooh, there we are. Nice and pink. So rather than pulling out my slicer, which I normally do with my charcuterie and my ham, I'm going to just slice this by hand because I believe this kind of beef here, I would like to have a little thicker. Just like that. Time for a taste. And smelling this, I get some of that nice seared beef aroma from the outside, garlic, some of that, a little bit of that pepper, and maybe just a hint of the thyme. Now for the taste, cold, going with cold here. So the saltiness, I'm going to say, is perfect. You could probably get away with a little bit saltier than that, but that 2.3%, I think really is just a perfect balance in there. I'm getting the garlic, pepper, the black pepper. It's not spicy at all. It's just that kind of nice, hearty black pepper flavor. There's the dried thyme is coming through a lot more in the flavor than it was in the aroma. Super nice. Although, so I've got this cold, but I really think this needs to be part of like a hot sandwich, either served on the side of something or on a hot sandwich here. So if only I had it heated up, and I do. See, ooh, a little steam going on there. So heat it up, really makes those flavors just pop. Garlic's coming out, the pepper, the thyme, everything. It's still moist, so even throwing this on a sandwich where it's less likely to, it dried out just a touch, just on the frying pan like this, but in a sandwich you're not going to have any of that happen. But getting it nice and warm, this is the business right here. Now, one of the great benefits of having cured this is that you do not need to freeze it. I'm just going to take it, pop it into a vacuum bag here. I'm going to seal it up, and you can pop it in the fridge and it will last for quite some time. You will definitely get through it before it is done. And ready for the fridge. So there you have it. That's how I like to take a nice beef eye of round roast, transform it into this really cool cured meat that you can go ahead, use on cold sandwiches, hot sandwiches, anything like that. Play around with the flavors if you want. If you want to tweak it, you want to add in something, take something out, go with completely different seasonings. The process is the same. Either way, it's delicious, it's fun, and it's something you made yourself. So go ahead and do that. And until next time, keep Road 11.